That's how they got to be billion-dollar insurance companies. If you've been injured, I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7969.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury. LA 21-126. Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. About half the work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Tons to do on this Wednesday. JD Piquel from On3 Sports, host of The Hard Count, going to be with us in 15 minutes. Talking national college football. We'll certainly touch on LSU and Alabama as well. It's a What If Wednesday. Got a few of those already in the hopper, but if you've got a What If and want to throw it at us in the Bayou Ford chat or on Twitter, we will certainly take it. Some Saints talk at the end of this hour as well. Matthew Bruni is going to join us each week on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock to talk some LSU basketball. We are now in full swing with hoops. LSU's men in Manhattan, Kansas tomorrow take on the Kansas State Wildcats. And the women did a great job today in signing the number one class in the nation. We'll talk to Matthew about all that coming up an hour from right now. I've got some key matchups with LSU and Florida that we'll get to at 2:15. And, of course, our SEC Power Rankings coming up at 2:30 today. I'm feeling pretty confident that I've got everybody where they need to be at this point. I'm now realizing that I don't have that sheet. Cassie, do you have that sheet, the Power Ranking sheet? I think it's back there in the war room. We'll go get it in the next hour and a half. But I did prepare them. I just forgot to get them back from Cassie. But we'll get to those at 2:30 as we do each and every week. Let's start the same way we do every single day with our opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
LSU in Florida from the Swamp, 2:30 Central Time on Saturday. And the biggest story of this week is most certainly going to be the availability of DJ Lagway. And a lot was made, of course, 2 weeks ago with LSU not being prepared for a second quarterback to come into the game. Marcel Reed diced LSU up, and then last week LSU didn't stop the run with the quarterback at Jalen Milroe, and everybody's looking at the rest of the schedule, and they're saying, oh my goodness, LSU can't stop the running quarterback. Here comes DJ Lagway. Here comes Diego Pavia. Here comes Michael Hawkins. Like, LSU's not going to be able to stop the running quarterback. This is a disaster. And that's fair to assume that because LSU did not stop the running quarterback in College Station and got gashed for 4 hours on Saturday night. That's completely fair. But let's talk about DJ Lagway first. DJ Lagway is not a dynamic running threat. He's very athletic. He was a 5-star quarterback recruit for a reason. He moves well, especially for a 240-pounder. But he is not some sort of Jalen Milroe clone. He's not as good a runner as Marcel Reed. I'll just read through his game-by-game statistics running the football. Against Miami, he ran it 4 times for 20 yards. Against Samford, he ran it 5 times for 16 yards. Against Texas A&M, 4 carries, negative 20 yards, a lot of sack yardage there. Mississippi State, 3 carries, 22 yards. Central Florida, 3 carries, 11 yards. Tennessee, 5 carries, 1 yard. Kentucky was his watershed moment. The most dynamic ground attack he's shown as the quarterback of the Florida Gators was against Kentucky Wildcats. He had 9 carries for 46 yards. About 5 yards a pop. And then against Georgia, before he got hurt, 4 carries for 18 yards. You're talking about a guy who, generally speaking, runs it about 4 times for about 15 yards. He is not an option quarterback or some sort of dynamic threat on the edge that's hitting 60-yard home runs. He's not Anthony Richardson. He's a good athlete. He can certainly pick up a first down. He can certainly outrun a defensive end to the corner. But he's not a great rushing quarterback. He's just an athletic quarterback who would prefer to do his work from inside the pocket. That's one piece to this equation. The other piece to this equation is that DJ Lagway suffered a hamstring injury 2 weeks ago that forced him to be carted off the field. Florida is probably not going to a bowl game this year, and the future of that football program in immediacy is on DJ Lagway. I do not believe that Billy Napier is going to look at his freshman quarterback, who is probably part of the reason he's still employed, and say, hey, man, I know you were on a cart 2 weeks ago, hamstring injury, but these guys really don't stop the run that good. Jalen Milroe, the fastest quarterback in college football, ran for 204 touchdowns on him last week. We're going to get you ready to run it 20 times this week. That's not going to happen. It's just not. I don't even know if DJ Lagway is going to play. But if he does, he's not going to be running wind sprints against this LSU defense 2 weeks after being carted off the field with a hamstring injury. It's just not realistic. LSU's got to prep for a running quarterback because they stink at it. But DJ Lagway is not that dude. And if he's not able to go, and Florida does have to turn to Aiden Warner, he's not a running threat at all. Like, none. So this insinuation that Florida is going to run the quarterback all over LSU because the blueprint's been set up, I don't know if it's rooted in a ton of truth because Florida doesn't necessarily have that personnel at quarterback. Now, if you want to change gears and you want to tell me that Billy Napier has taken Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week to install some sort of wildcat offense with a super athletic dude back there to give LSU that look and keep that numbers advantage that A&M and Alabama enjoyed because their quarterback was a running threat, absolutely. I think it would be gross negligence if Billy Napier didn't put one of his running backs or wide receivers back there to take snaps and run read option. I don't know if they've ever practiced that previously, and I don't know how long it takes to put that into a playbook. I've never been to a college football practice where they're doing install. I don't know. But it would be negligence not to attempt to do that. Florida's really good at running the ball. Montrell Johnson is a big physical SEC back. He's been hurt for 3 weeks, but it hadn't really mattered because Jaden Ball and Jacoby Jackson have been excellent. Jacoby Jackson last week against Texas ran it 19 times for 116 yards, and Jaden Ball in that game as well had a really good effort running the football, had 88 yards. So they can run the ball. I realize in the Texas game they got down 35-0. You can create some garbage yards. I get it. But they're going to run the ball. As far as LSU preparing for two quarterbacks, they are doing that right now. And they're going to be prepared for what Lagway has shown, and they're going to be prepared for Aiden Warner. And that's something they're going to be out in front of. They certainly weren't 2 weeks ago, but now you know the injury. And we talked to some of the players yesterday, talked to Paris Shand, talked to Ashton Stamps, and that's something that they're looking at. But I think LSU fans, and it's natural, this is going to be a grossly negative week in and around LSU football as far as the fan base goes. The players, we talked to them last night, they're ready to roll again. They're ready to go to Florida and play a football game. I know the fans, half of them, we got to fire the coach, half of them quit on the season. I get how toxic losses are in this sport. It's why it's not my favorite thing to discuss. But I understand the fear that everybody's just going to run like crazy because that's all that's happened for the last 6 quarters. It would surprise me if you saw that on Saturday. If DJ Lagway runs the ball 17 times for 126 yards and 3 touchdowns on Saturday, I'll be shocked. If Aiden Warner does that, I'll be even more shocked. If Florida puts in a Wildcat system that does have some success, I'll be less shocked. But keep in mind, if you put a Wildcat back there, you don't have the passing threat that Marcel Reed or Jalen Milroe offered you the last 2 games. I get it. Marcel Reed only threw it twice, so you're not using it. But it actually exists. He is a quarterback who is capable of throwing the ball. You don't necessarily have that weapon with a running back or a wide receiver back there. I don't know if you want to call that sunshine pumping. I don't know if you want to call that not reading the room. But I'm here to give you my opinion and to analyze what is in front of me, what I've seen from Florida and what the stat sheet says, plus what I know about the fact that DJ Lagway has been eased into practice. And I just don't see Florida chopping up LSU with the quarterback run game. Billy Napier was on the SEC teleconference this morning. They asked him about DJ Lagway's availability. It was a word salad answer of basically, I'm not going to tell you anything. Said, yeah, he's progressing. He's out there. It's nice to see him. We're trending in the right direction. All these type of word salad cliches that don't mean anything. We'll get the SEC's first availability report tonight. I would be stunned if you saw anything besides D.A. Lagway's name besides questionable. I think he'll be questionable until pregame. And last week in Austin, he put pads on and warmed up. So you're not going to know anything really until right before kickoff on Saturday. But even if he goes, do we really think the golden goose of that organization is going to be running around with a bum hamstring? I'm not seeing it. It's a break that LSU catches at this point in the schedule, but we'll just see how they handle things coming up on Saturday. That's our opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. We will step aside. We'll talk with our guy, J.D. Bickel, host of the Hard Count on 3 Sports, as we do each and every week. That's next on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com. If you live in a place where internet access is a little bit spotty, if you're sitting in a certain corner of a room in your house and you can't stream the way that you want to, when your televisions doesn't operate your streaming services the way that you'd like, or your phone gets spotty internet somewhere in the house, you can raise those levels with mesh Wi-Fi. I tell you all the time about AVSS's audio, video, security, all those things they can do. They also handle Wi-Fi. And if your Wi-Fi single at home stinks, then boost it with some mesh Wi-Fi from the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions. Mitchell Fisher and his team do this kind of stuff all the time. You can give him a call. It's his cell phone. That's the beauty of working with a small local business. You're going to be dealing with the decision makers each and every day, not some minion down the line at a big box store. Mitchell's cell phone is 225-439-7920. You call him, you get him. We do it all the time in the Palmer house because they've put some things in where we live. So 225-439-7920 is Mitchell Fisher's cell phone number, or you can check him out online, avssla.com. It's Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system, in the nation.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Chugging right along here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Nasty morning in the capital city here. It appears things are clearing out. Should be a great weekend here in South Louisiana. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. That time of the week where we chat with our guy JD Piquel, host of The Hard Count on 3 Sports. Find him on YouTube. Subscribe up to the channel. JD, how we doing?
Doing better, man. Doing better now. Glad to be on with you. And phenomenal slate, man. Excited to get into it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we got to go backwards before we can go forwards. A little surprised at the way that LSU Alabama went.
Oh, I was shocked. I was shocked. I think the thing that was shocking to me the most was the success Alabama had applying pressure. Because going into that game, my pick was LSU for the most part because I thought, hey, on the perimeter, I don't see any matchup that LSU can't win. Kyron Lacey's going to get his. Aaron Anderson's going to get his. And honestly, I think they still could have got theirs if we get a little more time for Garrett Nussmeier and he's able to sort that out a little bit easier. So it's all woulda, shoulda, coulda. And obviously, anytime Jalen Milroe goes for darn near 200 on the ground, something is not going right on LSU's defense.
Yeah, not much went right at all in the entire game for LSU. What does that make you rethink where things are under Brian Kelly here in Baton Rouge?
You know, Hunt, honestly, they don't. And I think that's probably going to be met with a little bit of objection from the folks in Baton Rouge because I've seen what's going on the social media side. I've seen what's going on our On3 message board for LSU. Like, people are not happy, and deservedly so. But when I zoom out, Hunt, I'm thinking, okay, all the reasons we still hired Brian Kelly to Baton Rouge to me feel intact. And I know it feels like putting lipstick on a pig right now, and it feels like I'm making excuses for the guy because it was an inexcusable performance after a bye and getting beat the way that everyone said, hey, you can't get beat with the quarterback run game. And then that was exactly what happened. But when I zoom out, assuming LSU wins out, assuming they win the bowl game, you're back to 10 wins. And I think it's enough to where I look to the next season. I'm like, I think Garrett Nussmeier should come back. Ideally, you finish through the line here and sign Bryce Underwood, give him a year to sit behind Nussmeier. And like the future looks very bright. I think going into this year too, and it sounds, I hate saying it out loud because it sounds like a cop-out, but like losing 3 first-round picks on offense, doing a whole defensive staff reset, like this year to me, making the college football playoff was always like, in my mind, the ceiling for LSU. Like if we get to the playoff with everything we're trying to reset on this roster and on this coaching staff, like great. So I'm not selling my stock just yet. You know what? I still think Brian Kelly will win a national title at LSU before it's all said and done.
That's the hope. It just feels a long way away right now. Georgia goes to Oxford and just got manhandled, quite frankly. 28-10 was the final. What was your biggest takeaway from that one?
Biggest takeaway is if you had children, I hope they didn't get to watch the second half because that was just absolutely inappropriate for all ages under 18. But when it comes, my biggest takeaway was, okay, Ole Miss has better players than Georgia. And it sounds simple to say, but like I think we've talked so much about what you can and can't do through the portal. And I think Lane Kiffin sort of just dropped the mic on, hey, you can build a team this way. And we'll see if they can sustain it. We'll see if this is something that you can have, multiple years where you take a stab at a national title. But I truly believe with what they have up front, with the way that, like you said, they manhandled Georgia Hunt. They got home 5 times, a lot of times with 4 dudes rushing the pass. Like it was a clinic on all fronts. And it shouldn't be that way with Georgia having, nothing but top 3 classes on that roster. So all that's to say now, Ole Miss overall, they're a national title contender in my mind. And with Lane Kiffin being able to market this moment too to future portal acquisitions, feels like that sustained success is a lot more attainable than it was before that game.
What does it say about Georgia?
It says Georgia is probably not a national title team in my mind, barring the Kirby Smart Thanos snap, which I think is still somewhat on the table, but probably not as high a percentage. I think I'm so surprised they don't have weapons, Hunt. Like I look across the country and I see LSU with weapons. I see Alabama with weapons. I see Ohio State with more weapons than anybody. And it's like national title contending teams have a quarterback and they have guys that can go win one-on-ones. I mean, Cash Jones had the longest reception in this game for Georgia. I love Cash Jones, but a walk-on running back should not be the dude that has your longest reception of the game because you got a matchup on the defensive end. Like, I'm very, very concerned that there's not someone there that can pop the top for them. And quite frankly, I think they are overly reliant on what Carson Beck can do. A lot of discussion about his poor decision making, and it's totally fair. But like, I'm looking at Georgia and saying, okay, you want Carson Beck to stop pressing. How about you stop pressing on him? Georgia's averaging 38 attempts a game. And so the fact that they don't seem to have another pitch where they can go back to vintage Georgia and just punch you in the mouth running the football, a lot of concerns. And I don't know that it's just going away anytime soon.
Miami finally got clipped. We were waiting for it. To me, it just feels like that's probably not a team that I think is going to win 4 straight playoff games. What do you think about them?
That was exactly my takeaway. I think the first was, okay, probably not going to a national title unless Cam Ward becomes like another version of himself, which feels like it's asking a lot with how just high level he's playing at to begin with. I would say this, in the context of them making the playoff, Miami has been elite with a sense of urgency. Like, they're one of the best second-half teams in America. I think they're scoring more than anybody per game in the second half, in large part because they have had to these last few weeks. Defensively, they've been great as well in the second half, allowing 10 a game in the second half of those last 2 quarters. So I'd say all that to say I think Miami now, this could be the best thing to happen to them this season is, okay, you got that safety net removed. You have that sense of urgency now, hopefully, for 4 quarters in a row. And maybe you're looking at a Miami team that kind of flips that switch permanently here and runs the table and makes the ACC title game and wins the ACC and finds their way in the dance. So a lot of ifs, a lot of potentials, but I actually like Miami more now that they got that loss out of their system.
Where were you on the holding call in the BYU-Utah game?
I mean, to me, like, I get it. I'm fine with the holding call. Like, to me, it looked like a holding, if we're just going to be honest. If you're a Utah fan, I'm sure you feel differently. Like, to me, I'm zooming out and I'm just like, can we just have an honest discussion about who BYU is? And like, this isn't me trying to be down on the Big 12 or down on BYU, but I'm looking at the rankings last night, and cool, give them the 6th overall ranking, give them the 3 seed based on them projecting to win the Big 12, whatever. But like, are we going to pretend that Ole Miss wouldn't ragdoll BYU? Are we going to pretend South Carolina sitting there in the 20s wouldn't absolutely just make BYU have bad dreams at night after what they do to them at a neutral site? Like, I would take I don't love Missouri, but I think Missouri and BYU, I think Missouri's probably favored in that game going into a neutral site kind of situation. So BYU's fine. I think they probably, deserve everything they've gotten to this point, and they're undefeated and all that. But like, I just don't want us to pretend that they're somehow like this top 10 team that we need to take seriously when it comes to them matching up with a Big Ten or an SEC team.
I mean, that's an interesting point. And I said immediately when Texas and Oklahoma bailed and the Big 12 scrambled and pulled in what they did, the scraps, I was like, that's not the same as the Big Ten or the SEC. There's no circumstance where they should be afforded the same opportunity as those 2 teams with their champion just automatically getting in. I don't see it from that conference, and I guess you're speaking to that point exactly.
And Hunt, my wife went to Baylor. I went to Baylor for a cup of coffee for grad school. Like, I'm from Big 12 country to some extent. I lived on the West Coast for the majority of my life, I guess you could say, formative years. So, like, the first thing people love to say whenever you try and describe this, like, talent gap between the SEC and other conferences, I'm putting the Big Ten in that discussion as well. SEC, Big Ten, the talent gap between other conferences. You hear, SEC bias, just a bunch of good old boys from that region of the country. It's like, no, that's not the case. Like, anybody that actually just watches football and understands what's going on here, like, that's not a competitive team against South Carolina that's ranked in the 20s, or A&M for that matter, ranked at number like 15 or whatever they were last night.
Yep, no question. Speaking of those middling SEC teams, Arkansas has kind of gotten punched in the mouth when they've gone up a class. LSU had their way with them. Ole Miss annihilated them. Do you think Texas does the same thing in Fayetteville on Saturday?
I think they do. I think Texas probably benefits from being punched in the mouth, quite frankly. Like, same thing we said about Miami in a much probably more impactful sense for Texas. I think it's okay now in the new college football in September, October to get punched in the mouth. Like, that's probably, good advice for life and good advice for college football playoff in 2024. Get punched in the mouth early and then let's come back swinging. So I think Texas is probably going to start playing their best football here moving forward if that Florida game is any indication. So I like Texas a lot in Fayetteville.
Couple more. We're going to get to the LSU Florida game as well as the big one in Athens, Georgia. But wanted your thoughts on Colorado, how they're playing right now, 5-1 in the Big 12. They'll welcome Utah in to Boulder this weekend. Do you think that's a playoff team that Coach Prime's got?
Yeah, I think it is. And again, I just dunked all over the Big 12, so I'm about to double back now and say how much I think of Colorado. I think Colorado's the team that's going to win the Big 12. The thing that has impressed me the most about them throughout the course of this season is they have continued to fix their mistakes and do things that I did not see from them early on in the year. North Dakota State game, I think we were all watching it and we're like, oh boy, this looks like the same team that rolled out there last year and won 4 ball games, and they're struggling with an FCS team. And to their credit, man, they have become much more balanced. They get after the quarterback. They have a top 10 sack rate in America. And so that has allowed them to maximize, obviously, their fastball that is their passing game and Shedeur Sanders. So to bring this point home, I think the big thing I'm looking at here with Colorado is, okay, we know they can win football games. We know they are a good football team by, all accounts at this point in the year. Can they be a team that finishes? Because they're going to have now a bunch of teams that are fighting for bowl eligibility. But I think you could also argue Deion Sanders is going to be up against 3 of the top 4 coaches in the Big 12 if you're drafting Big 12 coaches, and Mike Gundy, Lance Leipold, and Kyle Whittingham. So I'm excited for it. It's going to be a good time, but I do think Colorado is probably the best team in the Big 12, and I think they win this weekend at home against Utah.
Vegas was begging for Tennessee money early in the week. They had that lineup 13.5. It's now settled around 10. Georgia's favored in Athens. Do you see it as a 10-point game?
Yeah, hey, is the guy setting the line also Tennessee's medical guy? Because they must know something about Nico here. That's all I can take away. Is like why are we seeing a 10.5? I mean, unless they're just begging, like you mentioned, the good folks in Knoxville to put some money down and see where this thing goes. If Nico Iamaleava does not play, this becomes a very, very hairy situation. Gaston Moore is a talented / experienced backup for them. But he's not the caliber of a Nico Iamaleava. The trouble for me here, even if Nico plays, I can't get out of my mind how just stupid I felt, Hunt, walking in Sunday morning after picking Texas to beat Georgia with Georgia back into an absolute corner and the world against them. Feels like maybe the world isn't against them here with them being favored, but after that Ole Miss game, I think Kirby is going to make that locker room feel like the world is against them. And so for that reason, I think Kirby's got one more in him, and I think they get the win at home. And I don't know that I have a ton of confidence that if Quinn Ewers is struggling to see the correct picture against that Georgia defense, a guy, Nico Iamaleava, who hasn't really seen the picture as clearly as you would hope just yet this year, I don't think you get right against Georgia.
LSU in Florida from the Swamp. It'll be 2:30 Central Time kick on ABC. Tigers are 4.5-point favorite there. Does LSU rebound or does it spiral?
I think they rebound. Do we have anything new on DJ Lagway? That's obviously a huge
Napier
piece of the equation.
He talked around it today. Said he's progressing. He's out there. He's moving in the right direction. All the stuff that means nothing. And I'm certain he'll be questionable until that time comes. He dressed out on Saturday and he was never going to play. So I just think they're playing it coy.
And that's the thing. I mean, if you don't have DJ Lagway, as much as I appreciate Aiden Warner, who transferred from Yale, which every broadcast has now beat into the frontal cortex of our skulls and our brains, which I appreciate. However, like if you don't have DJ Lagway, there's no offensive output coming there, as much as I hate to say it. So if DJ Lagway in the game is probably a little bit more interesting. Regardless, though, I would take LSU to bounce back, and I think they fix a lot of the mistakes they had the week before at home against Alabama.
We appreciate some time, man. Talk soon.
Go Tigers.
JD Piquel, host of the Hard Count on 3 Sports for your college football fix. Subscribe up to the YouTube channel. He's with us every single Wednesday here on the Hunt Palmer Show. It's What If Wednesday. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Safety is a big deal in the bathroom. If there's somebody in your life that's aging, could be a hazardous spot for them, let One Bath and Closets come in and mitigate that to the best that they can. Got non-slip floors. They can put guardrails around tubs and toilets, showers. They can put a walk-in tub to make things more convenient and safer. They can put a bench in your shower as well. That just makes the bathroom really, really less hazardous, I guess I should say, that can be dangerous. Falls in the bathroom can be a big deal. Try your best to mitigate against those. David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets do that all the time. It's onebathandclosets.com. That's the website. You can see pictures of their fantastic work. You can see the testimonials and start the process with a free consultation. It doesn't cost you anything to start the consultation, to have David come in and see what they can do for you. If you're concerned about paying for things, they've got financing available, 0% for 18 months if you qualify. It's One Bath and Closets. You can find them online, onebathandclosets.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
The only thing scary about the deals at Bayou Ford is if you miss out on them, like $15,000 off F-150. Bayou Ford has $15,000 off Ford F-150. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
The best.
Welcome back to the Hunt Palmer Show. Here's your host, Hunt, the uniform czar, Palmer. Which uniform do you hate now?
It's not a uniform, but there were some bad courts in the NBA last night. Bad courts. Neon blue. Do we need to do that? Do we have to do that?
No.
Why are we doing that?
Because, they've got to draw up some interest. The NBA Cup.
Is that what it's called?
Or sorry, it's called the Emirates NBA Cup because of sponsorship reasons.
Oh, Lord have mercy. That got worse. I don't know how that could get worse, but it got worse. I thought NBA Cup was terrible, and then you told me it was the Emirates NBA Cup, and that was worse.
Yes.
This is the world we live in. We have to fake tournaments around Thanksgiving in the NBA and then paint our courts blue to get people to watch. That's the point.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good product.
Yes.
Let's do What If Wednesday.
Space. Reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, What if?
Alrighty, first one here. What if I asked you to explain Bitcoin?
That's not going to go well. I could fake it, but it wouldn't be good. It's the blockchain, which is unhackable. It's the currency of the future. You got a lot of different fluctuating currencies. It kind of stays the same. To me, Bitcoin has always been people buying it to sell it, which never made any sense to me at all. Until I can buy a cheeseburger with it, like I don't get it. And I still don't get it. I've got some friends that have made a lot of money in Bitcoin. I'm not one of those people because I don't really know what it is, and I'm probably not going to have any Bitcoin anytime soon. So good to the people that had the Bitcoin. I applaud your efforts with the Bitcoin. I don't know what Bitcoin is. I got some dollars in my wallet. We're just going to go with that for the time being.
All I know is Bitcoin is value has gone up to over 90,000 per coin.
Apparently when Trump got elected, it went nuts or something.
Yeah, it's gone from, I mean, obviously it started at nothing. It was in the 30s and 40s recently. Now it's up to 90. So
that's a lot.
I don't really understand it very much either, but
I don't understand the principle of buying something to sell it.
Yeah.
I don't really get that, but oh well.
All right, next one here. What if Nick Saban ran for president in 4 years?
I don't think Nick's going to be running for president.
Probably not.
I think some people would probably vote for Nick. I don't know that I'd be voting for Nick.
He's had a whole career of stress. I don't think he wants to have 4 more years of it.
Here's what I think. I think we are like inching toward like a lot of people running for president. Like Trump's probably opened this door. Stephen A. Smith said if he thought he could win, he could run for president. And like 10 years ago, I would have said it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And then Donald Trump ran for president, and he won twice. So I think that there are going to be people that aren't necessarily career politicians that are going to run for president. I know there have been some business people in the past that have done that, but I do think that you're going to see potentially more of that. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we're going to see a lot more interesting. I mean, Kanye West ran for president in the last election. He didn't get many votes, but
I just don't know if Kanye would be the best president.
Well,
based
after
on some of the
last
tweets.
few years, no, definitely not.
Yeah, I'm just thinking maybe we should go in a different direction there.
Yeah, probably so. Next one here. What if Jaden Daniels quarterbacked this team?
That's interesting. They beat USC for sure. And then you go to the A&M game. I think they beat A&M too. He didn't turn it over those 3 times, I don't think. He just didn't really do that at all. Now, keep in mind, like the Jaden Daniels we know had absolute freaks on the outside. And I think LSU has solid wide receivers, but they don't have those 2 guys. I don't think Jaden Daniels would have mattered on Saturday. I think they just get beat anyway because maybe the running game's a little bit better than it has been this year because he's got that threat. But the defense, it just wouldn't have helped. We saw a defense that couldn't stop Jalen Miller last year, and Jaden played for two and a half quarters of that game, and they were down 2 scores when he left. So I think that they'd be how many games did they play? They played 9 games. I think they would be 8-1 if Jaden was the quarterback of this team. I mean, I heard it. Somebody said that. Who was I listening to that said if they can't stop Jaden in the NFL, they aren't going to stop him in college. But I can't remember who said it. I was listening to it yesterday. But yeah, I think they'd be 8-1 because I don't think he would have mattered on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I also not sure about the A&M game because they just couldn't stop anything on defense.
Yeah, I think that he would not have thrown them 3 picks, and I think that LSU would have scored instead. Now, I mean, that's a lot to say because A&M was getting a rush on the passer, and like it was a tough environment to go into, and we saw Jaden lose some games last year. But by the end of last year, he was such a well-oiled machine. The ball was coming out so quickly. He was outrunning all these defenders. Like, I don't think it. I think LSU would have scored 35 points in that game, and they would not have given A&M 3 short fields, and I think that they would have distanced themselves from A&M.
Fair enough. Next one here. What if Darren Rizzi coaches the Saints to a 7-1 finish?
7-1? Oh man, you'd have a decision to make at that point. I mean, 7-1 is loud. I want so badly for the Saints to start a completely new era, and this would feel like just continuing it. Though. Yeah, I mean that's what we're talking about here, because you started at that point at you were what 2-7 when he started over, took over, so you'd be 9-8. So yeah, you probably make the playoffs.
Well, no, yes, yeah.
So, but I think that would be bad. So I think it would be bad to keep things exactly the same. It's hard to say that if they win 7 of 8 to finish and the whole locker room's behind him. You saw Antonio Pierce kind of win that team over in his interim stint last year, and we've certainly seen that in other instances. But I want the Saints to completely start over. That would be my thought on it.
Yeah, I think. I wonder if we're gonna see more teams. I think we're still gonna. I think overall, I think teams are still gonna. You're still gonna see teams going after the young offensive coach,
and they have one in Clint Kubiak.
Yeah.
That from that tree.
Right, but I do think that the success that Dan Campbell's had in Detroit may sway some teams to go for a guy like that with a special teams coach or a guy that is more of a just leader in the locker room and not necessarily calling plays on defense or offense. Maybe that happens, but I do think still that it's always going to be going after the young offensive guy. That's just the trend the NFL's gone on in the last 5 years. But next one here, what if Ole Miss wins the national championship?
Oh man. I didn't like it when Mississippi State and Ole Miss won the baseball national championship, but that doesn't really resonate quite as much. I've been living under the premise that there are only 8-9 programs that can win the football national championship. And for Ole Miss to bust through that ceiling and make that happen, that would really break my heart if Ole Miss could have that forever, because that's something that you just can't take away. So I didn't love the baseball one. It would really break my heart if they did it in football. And I tweeted this out last night. If you saw the draw that they got in this current spot, if the season stopped today and they were playing BYU and Penn State, I think they're going to win those 2 games. So that's real trouble. We got to find a way to somehow knock Ole Miss down a peg. I don't know how that's going to happen, but it's got to happen at some point. How far is too far with Ole Miss for me? I would say Ole Miss getting to the semifinal is too far. So they have to win 2 playoff games would be too far for me to get. I don't even want Ole Miss going to Atlanta for the SC championship game. I like the fact that they've never done that either.
The times have changed, okay? We've got a 12-team playoff now.
I don't want the times to change. In the old times, I was awesome, and now Ole Miss is awesome.
Yeah. Sorry, but
that's not good.
It's not, but that's just that's where we're at right now. All right, next one here. What if I'm trying to get some from the chat, but I'm not sure. Okay, what if there weren't so many trolls in the chat? How much better would it be? Be a lot better.
I think the point of the chat is for trolls.
Yeah, I guess.
The point for the chat is not to solve the world's problems. The point of the chat is to bicker and troll, and I enjoy that. I'm glad they're here, and I appreciate it. And sometimes I read, sometimes I get buried in my screen here reading notes or scores or something. But I appreciate them for being here.
Yep. All right, next one here. What if someone gave you $3,000 to use towards golf gear? Because you definitely need that, huh?
I don't play golf really, so that hurts. My clubs are old. I think my clubs are 10 years old, even my driver. So I'm tempted. There's so much better technology than what I'm currently playing with. I should probably handle that. But the fact of the matter is
irons are fine, I think. You can go.
But I play so little golf that I think, and this was actually mentioned in that tweet that they said, whoever it was that sent in, I think I might take the $3,000 as an advance towards a simulator. Because if I had a golf simulator at my house, then I would use that all the time. That's so different than going to actually play golf. It doesn't take time away technically from my family. I'm still there. It doesn't cost exorbitant amounts of money if I've got it at home. So I think instead of getting new clubs, I would probably just use that. I don't know exactly how much simulators cost, but I think you can get them for just north of that. And so I would probably start there with trying to get a simulator put in.
All right, so we got a few more, I think. I'm trying to find one that somebody says. I think Dustin B said he sent one. Oh, let's see. It's on Twitter, I believe. All right. What if? Okay, that's what it was. It was the golf one. Yeah. Oh, we got one more. What if Elaine could dance?
That episode wouldn't have been as funny, I guess. They wouldn't have minor league baseball stadiums doing Elaine dance-off competitions. Yeah, those little kicks, not a great look for Elaine, not a great dance, but good episode.
Oh,
great
yeah,
show.
we even had the great Richard Condon. He said he really couldn't think of anything at all.
Yeah.
Your coverage of the wide world of sports would even humble the late Jim McKay.
I keep Rich in the loop. It's why I'm here. It's what I'm here for, and I'm thrilled to do it. And I appreciate very much his ability to tweet at me 7 times a day. That is very, very.
It's impressive.
It's useful. it's a good use of his time. Thank you, Rich. Thanks for listening. Let's come back and close out hour number 1.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. Every car on the lot at Genesis of Baton Rouge is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. How about 3 years of complimentary maintenance? Every new Genesis of Baton Rouge comes with that. How about 3 years of complimentary valet maintenance? Every new Genesis comes with that. Just thinking, it's time to get the oil changed. I don't have time to go sit on the service aisle. Wipers aren't doing that great. Well, all that can be taken care of. You drive to work. You tell Genesis of Baton Rouge, hey, I need to get some maintenance done. Okay. They drive a Genesis of Baton Rouge to you, drop it off. They take your car to the service aisle, handle everything that needs to be handled, complimentary, drive it right on back to you. That's part of being a Genesis driver. And you can be that at Genesis of Baton Rouge. If you're in the market for a new vehicle, you're probably going to be on Airline Highway anyway. Make one more stop at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're right across from Women's Hospital, Airline at Piku. Just stop on in. Put yourself behind the wheel of one of these Genesis vehicles. Sleek, safe, stylish, fantastic. Get on by. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Check them out online, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
When you can't rely on technology, you can rely on Mountain Cold Refreshment.
Dave's back on.
Coors Light. Choose chill.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, closing up hour number 1 here. Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Matthew Bruni in 12 minutes talking LSU basketball. The women signed the #1 class in the country today. Men traveling to Manhattan, Kansas, take on the Kansas State Wildcats tomorrow evening, 8 o'clock tip from the Little Apple. I believe the Octagon of Doom, I believe, is the name of the arena up there in Manhattan. Cam Carter will be familiar with it, where he played his basketball for 3 years. And LSU will try to get their first big win of the season tomorrow. We'll talk about all that with Matthew coming up in 10 minutes. I wanted to finish out hour number one here talking a little Saints. Ross Jackson has a great piece up at LouisianaSports.net. I'm going to steal some of his statistics for this segment, but it gives a little bit of an idea as to why the Saints had as much success defensively as they did against Atlanta. The Saints started the year playing some pretty good defense. They played great defense against Carolina and Dallas to start, obviously, but they were functional in defense against Philly, and certainly they were against Kansas City, at least in terms of keeping points off the board. Kansas City went up and down the field, but they stopped them in the red zone. So you were off to a pretty good start defensively, and then all hell broke loose, and you didn't stop anybody for about a month, and that's when Dennis Allen got fired. Well, the first thing, or one of the first things that Darren Rizzi did when he took over was he made Joe Woods the defensive play caller, and then they made some adjustments with the staff. They moved Todd Grantham, and he became kind of an advisor defensively, and then they needed the defensive line to have some hands-on coaching with Grantham moving on, so they decided to go to their pass rush specialist to coach those guys. And they made some staff changes, but they also made some philosophical changes that I don't think Atlanta could have been prepared for. And Ross writes this on LouisianaSports.net. New Orleans is very blitz heavy and very man coverage heavy on third down. Against Atlanta, on 8 of 14 third down defensive snaps, the Saints went zone. And they only blitzed twice on third down of the 14 third downs. That is a complete abandonment of what the Saints had been, and certainly what Atlanta would have been prepared for, but that was Dennis Allen's MO. And I'm not saying that was the wrong thing for the Saints to do. I think it's great to bring pressure on third downs, but what you did was you took a game plan that Atlanta had installed, and you scrambled it because you didn't give him what they were looking for. You changed the picture on Kirk Cousins, and Atlanta really struggled with it. And the Saints were able to force turnovers and limit an offense that's got a lot of weapons and a veteran quarterback that's played pretty well. So that makes a lot of sense that the Saints would be able to catch someone off guard the first week after a coaching change. Now, you're going to look at a situation moving forward where teams now have seen that. And they know that while you still have those blitzes undoubtedly, because you're going to be running essentially the same defensive scheme, you have now shown you may change tendency. And teams will prepare accordingly. And that's what Darren Rizzi and Joe Woods and this staff have to figure out moving forward. It's the same thing we talked about with Clint Kubiak at the beginning of the season, where the Saints were cooking. We're going, all right, well, teams are going to adjust, and what do you do? And I don't know that we ever really truly got the answers to that because the Saints offense fell apart in terms of injuries. But the Saints defense is pretty healthy outside a corner, where you had a huge injury and you traded a corner away. But you're fairly healthy outside a corner. And you've got a staff that now has some tape out. And we'll see. I don't know that Jameis Winston and Cleveland are exactly the team that's going to expose it. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. We'll see. And then you've got a bye week after that. But it's going to be worth mentioning. And we talked all last week about that bump that you were going to get from a new coaching staff and a new philosophy and just a breath of fresh air. Plus, you've got these schematic changes that Atlanta wasn't really ready for. And it all kind of created this perfect recipe where the Saints were going to be able to win the football game on Sunday. And they certainly did. You look at them on third down, Atlanta was just 5 of 14 on third downs. Atlanta entered the week 7th in the league in third down conversions at nearly 50%. So you held them 5 for 14. That was great work. The question is, can you continue to build off that if you're New Orleans? I personally have some doubts about that because the backbone of your defense was your coverage ability, and now you've lost a good bit of that. But maybe Kool-Aid McKinstry and Alontae Taylor grow into high-level corners, and they can fill the shoes of Paulson Adebo and Marshawn Lattimore. That'd be great if that's the case. That's something you can build on for the rest of your team. But it feels like teams will start to figure some things out, and the Saints will have to continue to zig and zag to keep up with things. But I thought a great piece, very informative by Ross Jackson over at LouisianaSports.net, and I wanted to kind of point that out because it makes all the sense in the world. I didn't have access to the fact that that's what the Saints did, but Ross has some good numbers there. So Saints looking forward to Sunday's game against the Cleveland Browns. Jameis Winston's return to the Superdome. We talked with Sharif Ishak about that yesterday. I feel like Jameis is going to be greeted with a warm response But then the Saints will try to confuse him. And my guess is they probably will, because Jameis throws a lot of interceptions when he plays a lot. And he threw a lot of interceptions last week, 3 of them. And I think the Saints can get their hands on a couple more balls coming up on Sunday. But Cleveland will have the template to see what the Saints looked like in week 1 under defensive play caller Joe Woods. That's going to do it here for hour number 1 here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can always find us. You type Hunt Palmer Show and like, subscribe, rate, review, and we always appreciate that as well. We started with our Genesis opening drive as usual, talking about LSU preparing for 2 Florida quarterbacks and whether or not Florida can hurt LSU with the quarterback run game. I talked about it at the top of the show. You can certainly find that on YouTube at Hunt on LSU. J.D. Piquel joined us in his normal spot at 1:15 talking college football. He thinks Colorado's a playoff team. He thinks Ole Miss is a national championship contender, and he thinks LSU is going to handle their business in Gainesville. You can hear that entire interview. It was at 1:15. It was a What If Wednesday. Talked about Bitcoin and Nick Saban running for president. Go back and check that out on demand. I'm fired up for hour number 2. We got a couple of great segments coming up for you. Of course, my SEC football power rankings had a lot of shakeup in the top of the power rankings this week. I did not feel good about my rankings last week. I feel good about the ones this week. I think I've got it just about nailed down. Subject to change for next week. Matthew Bruni coming back after SportsCenter. We're going to talk all things LSU basketball. Big day for the women, signing the number 1 class in the country, and the men headed to Manhattan to play the Kansas State Wildcats tomorrow. So come back with us after SportsCenter. It is a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carbo, awesome dude, awesome people to work with over at the Highland Insurance Group. Whether it's property and casualty insurance that your business needs, or it's employee and group benefits. We know how critically important both are. As far as the benefits go, you need to have great benefits with your business so that folks will want to work for you and they'll want to stay employed with you. You also got to have great property and casualty insurance, because when that bad thing happens, cyber breach, which happens all the time. Hurricanes happen more than we like. Car accidents happen all the time. And they can be really costly if you don't have the proper coverages and limits in place. Jonathan Carbo and his team at the Highland Insurance Group can help you out with that. If you don't know what your insurance program says and you are a business owner, strongly consider giving the Highland Insurance Group a phone call or checking them out online. It's the Highland Insurance Group. They're right here in Baton Rouge. Check them out online, HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you in a new 2024 Ram 1500 truck for only $32,898. $32,898 for a new Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. The Spurs say Coach Greg Popovich's current absence is due to a mild stroke he suffered on November 2nd. He's already started a rehab program, is expected to make a full recovery. Timeline for his return to the sidelines not yet determined. 76ers stars Joel Embiid and Paul George out tonight versus Cleveland, second half of a back-to-back due to injury management. The Colts going back to quarterback Anthony Richardson as their starter the rest of the season, beginning Sunday against the Jets. Joe Flacco started Indy's last 2 games, both losses. Richardson was benched late last month after a game where he asked to come out for 1 play because he was tired. His long-term development is critical at this point, says ESPN's Jeff Saturday.
Anthony Richardson is going to be the future of this franchise, and you got to develop him and figure that part out. He played 13 games in college and has played 10 games as a pro. If you don't think development is the #1 factor for this kid's long-term success, you're lying to yourself.
Jaguars quarterback Mac Jones starts in place of the injured Trevor Lawrence Sunday against Detroit. The Raiders staying with Gardner Minshew as QB1 versus Miami this week.
Here's one stat that's super simple to remember. Discover automatically doubles the cash back on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cashback Match. With Discover, you could turn $150 cash back to $300. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Half the work week officially in the rear view mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. My SEC football power rankings coming your way at the bottom of the hour. In 15 minutes, some key matchups for LSU and Florida inside the swamp on Saturday afternoon. Got some stories up on both of those things at louisianasports.net right now. If you're looking for your Saints coverage, your LSU coverage, you can always find it at louisianasports.net. And it's all free every single day, so go check all of that out. Basketball season in full swing. Lady Tigers went ahead and started their season off with 3 big-time wins. They had their field trip game, the annual morning tip-off yesterday. They're crushing teams, and they just signed the #1 class in the country. The men have their first big test of the season coming up tomorrow from Manhattan, Kansas. To talk about all of that, bring on our friend Matthew Bruni from the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 Network. Matthew, how we doing?
Hey, Hunt, doing well, staying busy, like you said, signing day and basketball season, and it's still football season, so staying busy.
It sure is. Let's talk some basketball signing classes here. We'll start with the ladies. Pretty impressive what Kim Mulkey was able to put together today. Can you kind of put that into context for us?
Yeah, 2 years ago they had the #1 class in the country, Flaugier and Aaliyah Del Rosario and 2 others. And this class is significantly better. I'm sorry, not Flaugier, Michaela Williams 2 years ago.
Yep.
And this class is significantly better than that one. I mean, 4 top 25 players, a couple top 10 players. I mean, this is just checks every box. You have 2 big guards in there. You have a shooter. You have a 6'2" player to replace Anissa Morrow in front court next year. It's by far the number one class in the country. No other team, no other program has more than 2 top 25 players committed. Most of them only have 1. It's really spread out this year. South Carolina only has 1. So I look at this as being a huge, huge piece to the next 4 years and what Kim Mulkey can accomplish.
Let's talk about the men. They've brought in at least 2 signees today. I saw Gilhul and Mosley sign. I don't know if you can update us on more there, but there's 2 signees officially in the boat. What can you tell us about them?
Yeah, and Jalen Reese will join them today, from what I understand. But who knows how all the paperwork and signing all stuff all works out. But still, this is a really good class for them. Another year where they've gotten 3 top 75 players. You start to stack up these types of classes, and you're able to build the depth that Matt McMahon wants, to where he doesn't have to go to the portal for a new team every year. I think similar to last year, he brought in a point guard, Jalen Reese. He brought in a 2 guard in Mozzie Mosley, and he brought it in a forward in Matthew Gilhul. So he kind of just repeated the recipe that they had this past year when they added those same positions with Curtis Givens at point, Victorious Miller, and Rob Miller. So I think they're in a good rhythm right now. It helps to have a guy like David Patrick added to the staff, but Matt McMahon's done a really good job on the recruiting trail, just continue to add quality players, and we'll see if they can land the big domino later on.
Yeah, that's the question with Sinak. I want to know what your thoughts are. Do you have a timeline on him? I heard December, but what do you know about Chris Sinak, who's the crown jewel of this class potentially?
Yeah, he is a top 10 player across the board. He shot up over the summer, was the best player at a bunch of events that had a bunch of the top players in the country. Everything, I feel like I've heard a bunch of different things about Sinak, and I talked to him over the phone over the weekend. He said he was hopefully going to decide this month, but I just from what I've gotten and what I feel like people have heard around Sinak the past really few months is I think he still has some time before he decides, which isn't a terrible thing for LSU. They still have the last visit. They've been recruiting him for the longest time, and I think this official visit this past weekend really helped in getting him to realize just how nice it is to be this close to his family and this close to home. And so we'll see how everything battles out with the NIL and everything, but I think they're in a good spot. As far as the timeline goes, I don't think anybody knows for certain what he's thinking.
All right, let's talk about the team that's currently on the floor. LSU heads to Manhattan, Kansas tomorrow to play Kansas State. Through 2 games, you look at this team. What do you make of the backcourt play? It starts with Sears and Carter, who were fantastic for them in their game on Sunday.
Yeah, Sears finally hit his stride. Through the first game and then the first half of this past game, he was really, really quiet, and then he explodes for 18 points to help put the team on his back there. I think that's what they need from him. I anticipated him going into the year as a 15-plus point per game scorer, just because he averaged 23 last year and he can shoot the heck out the ball. But he got to the rim really well against Alabama State. I think he makes everything go with him. Without him, as much as I like, Mike Williams and Curtis Givens, they still need him to be like that initiator for them. So him and Cam Carter, I think, has been obviously really good as well, shooting the heck out the ball to start the year. So I feel good about the backcourt, but they're about to get really tested here by Kansas State.
How do you feel about the perimeter defense? That was something that they really, really focused on, and I realize they haven't played anybody yet, but what do you make of it through 2 games?
Yeah, I think it's okay. I think it could be better. Cam Carter and Jai Bailey were 2 really good defenders, and they're both, fifth-year seniors at this point that should be able to defend the perimeter really well. They've been fine. I think Mike Williams also should be able to check that box. My question is, with Jordan Sears at 5'11", 5'10", how does he hold up ultimately? But so I do think they've been put in rotation a little bit too much. Matt McMahon said that himself. But I think those are things that you can tighten up as the year goes on. So, again, they're going to face a really, really good test in terms of guards and a good offense tomorrow against Kansas State.
Tell us what you know about Kansas State.
Yeah, Jerome Tang has a really, really quality team. As we saw last year, Kansas State came to Baton Rouge and beat LSU up pretty good here. I think the backcourt is is mostly new, and then they added Coleman Hawkins, who, if everyone remembers, LSU was in on briefly before he decided to go to Kansas State.
Yeah.
So, they have a lot of talent. It's a team that's going to be fighting in the upper half of the Big 12. So you go into this game needing to, at the very, very least, be competitive in order to show that you have improved from last year, and you're going to be, a team to watch in the non-conference. I've said it on and on that they have to win games in this non-conference. That'll determine their NCAA tournament, resume, and this is the first test.
How much do you think they're going to miss Tyrell Ward?
I think they're going to miss him pretty significantly. I don't want to overstate it because they're still a talented and pretty deep team, but I do wish they had his shooting at times, and really even in the first game and then the first half against Alabama State, it just felt like they didn't have that punch that they really need on the perimeter in terms of shooting. Jai Bailey can do a lot of things, but he's not a shooter. So then Robert Miller's out there, and he's a freshman. So you just have a lot of questions, I think, in terms of shooting and kind of perimeter creation at that wing spot. And so I do wish they had him, but ultimately I think there's still enough talent and still enough depth here to do what they want to do.
I was a little surprised to see Robert Miller in the starting lineup for the exhibition moving forward. Then I was like, well, wait, Derek Fountain's not back fully from his injury. Do you expect Fountain to eat into some of those minutes, or do you think that Miller kind of grows in his freshman year and becomes kind of an impact guy for LSU?
Yeah, I mean, I expect Fountain at some point to eat into those, if not get a starting position. I think the rebounding is going to become more of a question mark as the year goes on, and Fountain is a very good rebounder. I expected either Collins or Fountain to be starting going into the year, and so like you, I mean, to see Robert Miller out there is a little surprising, but I do know that they want to have a lot of shooting around Jalen Reed at the 5 position, and Robert Miller, in theory, is a shooter that can stretch the floor, but ultimately I think we'll get back to Fountain starting next to Reed at some point. I'd be pretty shocked if it's Robert Miller the entire year.
Women's basketball recruiting, basketball coverage, football, it's all there. The Bengal Tigers, certainly football recruiting as well. Matthew Bruni, Shea Dixon do an awesome job over there. We appreciate a little bit of time, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Hunt. Anytime.
He's Matthew Bruni, Bengal Tiger on 3. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, some key matchups for LSU and Florida coming up on Saturday in the Swamp. I wrote about it at LouisianaSports.net. I'll tell you about it coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. EvolvePT.com is that website. If you're in pain, go to Evolve. Pain sucks. It's not a lot of fun. Doesn't matter how it happened or how old you are. You want to get rid of it and get back to being your active self. I've talked to Robbie Bolton a couple times in the last couple of weeks and saying, hey, man, look, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you're active, whether you're in your upper 60s or teens, we can help you. We can help you get back to being your active self. Golf, pickleball, cheerleading, youth sports, just working out, whatever the case may be. If you can't do it because of pain, you need to get rehabilitation. You need to get to Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports for that. They do the dry needling, they do cupping, they do isokinetic testing to test how your muscles are responding and whether or not you're gaining that strength back that you need. They can do it all. It's first-class operation. It's state-of-the-art equipment over there at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. They're on Starring near Highland Road, right there behind Sammy's Grill. You can check them out online, EvolvePT.com. It's Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports, EvolvePT.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you in a new 2024 Ram 1500 truck for only $32,898. $32,898 for a new Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, party plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Join us at Pro Dreams in Mandeville for our special event, A Day of Champions. Meet LSU National Championship winning head coaches Jay Johnson, Skip Bertman, and Paul Maneri. Don't miss your chance to purchase authentic sports memorabilia, autographed by the champions themselves. It's the perfect opportunity to celebrate LSU baseball and take home a piece of history. Visit pro-dreams.com to get your tickets. See you there.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Hopefully that wet weather from this morning is out of here. I was driving kiddo to school this morning, and he's sitting in the back seat. It's yucky, Daddy. It's yucky. I'm like, yeah, this is not all that pleasant, bud. It wasn't all that pleasant on Saturday night either. Hopefully that's out of here. I was looking at the weather for the weekend. Should be a good one here in South Louisiana, and I think it's going to be good in Gainesville, Florida as well. LSU and Florida coming up at 2:30 Central Time from the Swamp. It'll be on ABC. And I wrote a piece at LouisianaSports.net talking about the matchups that I'll be looking for in this game. And I put this caveat in there, and I believe this. I'm not just going for hot takes here. I felt like I had a really good pulse on LSU and USC. I thought it was going to come down to how well can LSU run the ball and how well can USC throw it. And in the end, LSU couldn't run the ball, and USC threw it whenever they wanted to at the end of the game and went on 2 touchdown drives to win it. And I felt like I had a pretty good pulse on that one entering it, and it kind of played out the way I thought. Now, I've gone back and forth in a lot of different games up until this one with what matchups to watch and how things are going to go. But I feel really confident about the way that this thing will go on Saturday in terms of matchups to watch. The first one is Florida's offensive line against LSU's front seven. If you tell me how that goes, I will tell you how this game goes. Because Florida's got some injury issues. I don't know if Lagway is going to play. I don't know if Eugene Wilson's going to play. I'm not sure. But if you tell me how that matchup goes up front between Florida's offensive line and LSU's front seven, I will tell you how the game plays out. Because if Florida cannot push LSU around and run the ball and create seams, and they can't block LSU off the edge, their offense has no chance. Because Lagway's not prepared to go nuts if he plays, and certainly if you go to the backup quarterback, he has no chance. Aiden Warner is not going to hurt LSU in this game, in my estimation, if he can't just hand the ball off to 3 really talented running backs. I don't know if Montrell Johnson's going to play or not either. There are a lot of caveats, but all of them are insignificant in my estimation when you look at, okay, I don't care who's running the ball for Florida. It just depends on how their offensive line plays. And if LSU, from a defensive perspective, plays up front like they did against Arkansas, plays up front like they did against Ole Miss, they will stymie Florida. And Florida, that is, to me, matchup number 1. It's not DJ Lagway running. It's not LSU's corners trying to cover. It's Florida's offensive line against LSU's front seven. That to me is huge. And that, again, it's not some sort of breaking news that I think it's important to win the line of scrimmage. But I think it's Florida's only avenue. The second matchup in this game is Austin Armstrong, who was Florida's defensive coordinator, against Garrett Nussmeier. I leaned here on this matchup on the guys on the morning show this morning. They had Matt Flynn on, Jake and T-Bob were there, and they were going over a lot of the things that they saw Texas A&M and Alabama doing to Garrett Nussmeier. And we can all agree that his last 6 quarters have been his worst quarters of the season. And we can all agree that Florida is going to look at that tape and try to recreate it. Now, I don't think Florida's got the dudes that Texas A&M and Alabama have, but they're going to try. And one of the things that those guys were talking about was sending double A-gap pressure, was simulating that pressure and bailing out of it, and messing with Garrett Nussmeier's eyes and trying to speed him up. And the turnovers have just been too much. And on yesterday's show, I broke down all 11 of his interceptions, all 11 of them. And the majority of them have been due to a missed read. Whether he didn't see the safety, didn't know that somebody was going to be there, and made a throw that was very easy to intercept, not based on some tremendous athletic play by a secondary man going up over the top of an LSU receiver, based on the fact that he just kind of threw it right to him. I mean, that goal line interception that he throws against Alabama, it went right to the linebacker. He was on one receiver, peeled off to the next, and he just threw it right to him. That's a communication thing. That's a defensive scheme thing. And if Austin Armstrong can confuse Garrett Nussmeier, he'll throw it away. I wrote this in my piece at LouisianaSports.net. It feels to me unlikely that a Florida defense that ranks 15th in a 16-team SEC in scoring and rushing defense, 13th in passing defense, 10th in sacks, and 9th in red zone defense is going to completely shut down LSU's ability to move the ball. That seems unlikely to me. Not impossible. It seems unlikely to me that would happen. What does not seem unlikely is that Garrett Nussmeier could throw 3 interceptions because he misreads something, because the defensive coordinator made a good call and Nussmeier didn't read it. And that's not necessarily a Joe Sloan thing. It's more so a Garrett Nussmeier thing. So that matchup to me is huge. And then you've got the last one, which is intangible, I would suggest. And it's apathy. And it's right at LSU and Florida. And it's for different reasons. Florida has done a really good job handling disappointment this year. They have. They got hammered by Texas A&M at home a few weeks after getting smoked by Miami at home. And they showed up ready to play in Starkville against Mississippi State. They had Tennessee beat if Billy Napier would just go for 2 at the end of the game instead of playing conservatively with nothing on the line for his program and kicking the extra point. Gut-wrenching loss on Rocky Top. They played their best game of the year the next week against Kentucky. They weren't going to the SEC championship game. They're not going to the playoff. Their coach at that point was probably going to get fired. And they showed up and they played really hard. And I think that's realistic for his team, unless DJ Lagway doesn't dress out. Because you can say next man up all you want, but the fact of the matter remains that locker room is not stupid. And they know if Aiden Warner starts taking snaps, they got almost no chance to beat good SEC teams. Mediocre SEC teams. They were down 35-0 last week with that guy playing quarterback. They put it in the end zone one time against Georgia, but it was pretty inept other than that. Warner's not an SEC quarterback. He's an Ivy League transfer. And the players know that. And if he's the guy and they feel like, what? It's hard to fight that off. You're a defensive player and they're constantly turning the ball over or punting because you don't have an SEC quarterback out there, like, it can wear on you and you can bail. That's something Florida's going to have to fight. On the flip side, with LSU, a lot of your goals are off the table. You're not going to be an at-large. Now, I understand there is a way to make this thing happen to the SEC championship game. I understand. And we'll cross that bridge when we get to it if we need to. But you've been talking about being a college football playoff team since August. Will Campbell talked about that before the USC game. That's unlikely now. You got let's just call it what it was, embarrassed in Tiger Stadium on Saturday? Can you respond to that and go play? Apathy can set in. And you're not going to get, in my opinion, a big boost from the Swamp in terms of energy. I've been to the Swamp a lot. I went in 2006 when they were the national champions with Chris Leak and Tim Tebow. I went in 2008 when they beat the absolute brakes off of LSU, scored 50-something. Brandon Spikes punted the ball over my head in the student section. I was there in 2010 for the weird fake field goal thing. I was there in 2012 for Muschamp when they ran the ball with Gillisley 100 times and beat LSU. In 06 and 08, that place was as good a stadium as you will have in the SEC. It was on fire. Urban Meyer had that thing humming. They had Tim Tebow and Percy Harvin and Chris Rainey and Jeff Demps and Aaron Hernandez and Riley Cooper and Brandon Spikes. And, they were a freight train. And that place was on fire. 2012, nobody was really that excited about Muschamp. It was a boring brand of football. They ran it all the time, played defense. They weren't that good. It was pretty sleepy in the Swamp in 2012. I went back in 2020. That doesn't count because it was COVID and fog and the whole thing. But 2012, it was pretty sleepy. Florida's fan base is not quite as hardwired as some of the others in the league. Now, most stadiums have some empty seats when the team is not great. That's the case in Baton Rouge. That's the case in Athens. That's the case in Knoxville. You don't fill 100,000-seat stadiums with teams that go 6-6. But, South Carolina would still bring it. And Tiger Stadium would still be pretty intimidating. The Swamp can fade pretty quickly. And I think that it's going to be, I think that stadium seats 86. I would guess you're closer to 75 on Saturday. There's a large contingency of that fan base that does not think Billy Napier is the guy. There's not anything on the line. Their quarterback might not play. I don't think you're going to fill that place up. It's not going to be electric. And so LSU and Florida are both going to have to bring their own energy. And if you can't fight off that apathy, whether it's because you're playing a backup quarterback and you're going to lose your 7th game or because your at-large playoff chances are out the window, you can get beat. That's going to be a battle for both LSU and Florida. So to me, the 3 key matchups in this game, Florida's offensive line trying to run the ball on LSU's defensive front, Florida's defensive coordinator against Garrett Nussmeier trying to confuse him into those interceptions, and then both teams mentally being locked into the game and playing really hard. Not a guarantee at this point in this era of college football where guys can already be looking at their next stop. Just my thoughts on key matchups. You can read about it. Go into a little bit further depth with some numbers over on LouisianaSports.net. If you're looking at LouisianaSports.net today, there's plenty of stuff on the homepage. Always invite you to check it out. I mentioned the matchup to watch piece. Ross Jackson's got a great piece up about the defensive staff shakeup and what that did for the Saints back on Sunday. We chatted with Xavier Thomas, who went kind of in depth into just how much work they do on punt return and kickoff return stuff, both during the week as well as on the sideline in game. They made an adjustment in the Alabama game that sprung a nice return in the kickoff game. So if you want to read something about that, you can do so at LouisianaSports.net. SEC Bowl projections are up. LSU women's basketball recruiting update. Josh Smith, American League Silver Slugger, got an update on that as well. So all the LSU, Saints, and SEC content you could crave is over there for free at LouisianaSports.net. When we come back, SEC football power rankings. Let it get it done. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. When you think luxury, you should think Genesis of Baton Rouge. There are certainly brands that come to your mind when you think luxury vehicles, and Genesis may not be one because they haven't been around that long. Change that. If you're in the market for a luxury vehicle, go check out Genesis of Baton Rouge. If you don't think you can get into the market for a luxury vehicle, go check them out at Genesis of Baton Rouge. It's a luxury vehicle at a reasonable price. How about a warranty? 100,000 miles, 10 years. It's hard to beat that. 100,000 miles, 10 years. 3 years, complimentary maintenance, valet maintenance. And if you don't love shopping at a dealership, you never have to set foot on the dealership to buy a Genesis at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They'll come to you for a test drive. They can do e-contracts, digital delivery, drive that car right to you. It's yours. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Check out every car that's on the lot online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. That's genesisofbatonrouge.com.
The only thing scary about the deals at Bayou Ford is if you miss out on them, like $15,000 off F-150. Bayou Ford has $15,000 off Ford F-150. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, it is that time. We do it every single week. Last week I told you my confidence level was super low. Thought I had misevaluated some teams, and that turned out to be true. I will tell you that all of the shakeup this week is up at the top. The bottom, and it's crazy when I go through it, I don't look at last week's. I just do it, and then I go look up last week's on Instagram and see how things have shaken out. And somehow 9 through 16 didn't move at all this week. But the top 8, it did. So let's get to the SEC Power Rankings.
Hunt's SEC Power Rankings. The Ole Miss Rebels.
I think this is tough to argue against this point, quite frankly. I think Ole Miss is the best team in the league. I thought they looked good in front of my eyes in Tiger Stadium, and LSU did a great job to win that game. But they've got the best quarterback in the league. I feel comfortable saying that. They've got the best pass rush in the league. They lead the country in sacks. And they're playing the best of anybody in the league. They just annihilated Arkansas. They annihilated South Carolina, and they just put Georgia in a locker. I don't have a good explanation for anyone else really being close at this point to Ole Miss. I got the Rebels at number 1.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
Maybe a little bit of a reputation play here. I know they got beat pretty good, but that's the best team in the league I think that they were playing. Look, they controlled Texas, which means something. And they controlled Alabama for a half, which means something, I think. Beck has thrown 9 interceptions in 4 games. If you just don't do that, maybe, but we're dealing with the same problem here in Baton Rouge.
He's really tarnishing the Beck name.
He really is tarnishing the Beck name. So look, it's I I got Georgia backing up only one spot to number 2.
Sometimes I just can't find them.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
You're tarnishing the Beck family name.
Yeah, I am.
Tennessee moves up 4 spots this week to number 3. I thought I had them ranked poorly last week, and forget it. I mean, they killed Mississippi State. Who cares? But this is as good a defense as there is in the SEC. They're number 5 in the country in scoring defense, and Nico is playing better. Now, if he's hurt and he can't play on Saturday, that's real bad going to Georgia. But I think Tennessee right now is the 3rd best team in the league. I've got them up 4 spots to the 3 spot.
The Texas Longhorns.
Texas falls 2 spots after a nice win. They beat Florida by 1,000. They got the number 4 scoring defense in the nation, and Quinn Ewers finally looks better against Florida. I'm just not going to give you too much credit for beating a backup quarterback, and you haven't beaten anybody else. Michigan stinks. Oklahoma stinks. Like, it's not an impressive resume. I still think Texas is pretty good, but I had to back them up a little bit. They are now back 2 spots to number 4.
The Alabama Crimson Tide.
Saturday doesn't wash everything away that they had done previously. You're still a team that's lost 2 games. You still lost to Vanderbilt. You still lost to Tennessee. You still didn't look great offensively in the passing game against Missouri. But I think Saturday was a reminder that Bama can be very dangerous, and Jalen Milroe can be very dangerous when he's not trying to throw it too much. He just needs to run more. I don't know why he doesn't run more. I don't know why he ran the ball 7 times against Vanderbilt. I don't know why he hasn't run for 120 yards on more teams this year. Certainly does it against LSU, and I would expect to see more of that moving forward. So Alabama comes in at number 5.
The South Carolina Gamecocks.
I moved the Gamecocks up 2 spots to number 6 this week. They've won 3 straight games. They outscored Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Vanderbilt 107-36. I don't think Lenora Sellers is a work of art at quarterback, but he's athletic, and he was tough on Texas A&M, and that defense is legit. So I think South Carolina's good. I've got him at number 6.
Texas A&M!
The Aggies come in at 7. That's 3 spots back, and they didn't even play last week, but I just feel like I needed to move Alabama and South Carolina up. I do think Alabama and South Carolina are better teams than Texas A&M. I think A&M's got a small issue at quarterback. I don't think Marcel Reed is a great player, and I think Connor Wigman is bad. So I don't love A&M from that perspective. Their defense is legit, and I think Elko will do a good job there, but I backed them up 3 spots for not playing. That generally doesn't happen. It was more a reflection of the teams that went ahead of them.
The LSU Tigers.
Probably higher than most LSU fans want me to put them. I think at this point this week, like I talked about earlier in the show, this team stinks. Going to the Pop-Tart Bowl. They're 13th in the SEC. They can't beat anybody. Should have 5 losses. Well, they don't have 5 losses. They've got 3. And the Ole Miss win's a really good one. And they did that at home inside Tiger Stadium. South Carolina win is a pretty good one, even though I understand Sellers went out of that game. LSU's got massive flaws. They can't run the ball. The turnover issues are real, and that run defense needs some real work. But everybody from this point back has got significant issues. I think LSU's a pretty good team that is still dangerous because Nussmeier can beat you. I got LSU at number 8.
The Vanderbilt Commodores.
The Doors got punched in the mouth on Saturday. South Carolina ran for 214 yards. Plus, Vanderbilt's passing game is really limited. They only passed for about 160 a game. That's 13th in the SEC. Solid, scrappy, didn't back up too much at all, really. They were 9th last week. But, look, they've got some issues.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
Taylon Green is a little gimpy right now, and that's concerning. They need him against Texas in a big way, but they've punched down really well, and they did that against Mississippi State. They did that against Florida. Like, they can punch down, they can't punch up, but that's why I've got them at number 10.
The Florida Gators.
Gators need DJ Lagway back, but with him, they are solid offensively. Defensively, they got run defense issues and pass defense issues. They're playing hard, which is a credit to Billy Napier. With no quarterback, they got no chance. But with Lagway, I still think they're 11.
The Missouri Tigers.
Missouri's at 12th. They got a late win against Oklahoma using their backup quarterback, Drew Pine. Eli Drinkwitz is popping off a little bit there. I don't know if that's necessarily warranted after the Oklahoma game, but he's got his teams back. They all love him in Missouri, so we'll give Missouri the 12th spot.
The Kentucky Wildcats.
It's really difficult to be the worst passing offense in the league when you've got this Vanderbilt offense and certainly this Oklahoma offense in the league. But Kentucky's is the worst. They are 123rd out of 134 teams in the country in pass offense. There are only 11 teams in the country that throw it worse than Kentucky. That's not good. Kentucky at number 13.
The Oklahoma Sooners.
Somehow Oklahoma may be worse than that on offense, even though statistically it doesn't bear itself out. Doesn't matter if they've got Jackson Arnold up there. Doesn't matter if they got Michael Hawkins out there. whatever it is, it's bad, and Oklahoma stays at number 14.
The Auburn Tigers.
I would put Auburn ahead of Oklahoma because they looked better than Oklahoma 2 weeks ago when they beat Kentucky, but Oklahoma did beat them, and that means something when you get this far down the list. I can't do it every time, but it means something when you get this far down the list, so I'll put Auburn down there at 15.
The Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Mississippi State had a brief time where they jumped up into that 13 spot, but it's all for naught. They're very, very bad. They went to Knoxville, and they got beat very, very badly. So that's just kind of what they do. I got Mississippi State at number 16. Those are your SEC football power rankings. To review them one more time, Ole Miss at 1, Georgia at 2, Tennessee's at 3, Texas takes the 4 spot, Alabama 5, South Carolina is at 6, number 7 is Texas A&M, number 8 LSU, number 9 Vanderbilt, Arkansas at 10, Florida at 11, Missouri at 12, Kentucky at 13, Oklahoma comes in 14th, and Auburn is at 15th in front of the caboose, Mississippi State. Beck?
Yeah, I'm okay with pretty much everything here. I understand Missouri. I understand you don't respect Missouri at all, but I still think they're probably better than Florida and probably close to Arkansas, so having them 2 spots below them is interesting.
Okay.
Other than that, it's
what do we think about South Carolina? They're at 6.
Yeah, that's actually not crazy to me when you look at their schedule.
Let me lob you just a hypothetical, just a Jacob Beck special. I hand you a crisp $20 bill.
Okay.
South Carolina and Texas are playing in Columbia, South Carolina, and you just have to pick the winner. $20.
I'll take Texas.
Okay.
I think it's close. I mean, they've played almost everybody. All the tough opponents they've gone up against, they've played close, and they blew out Texas A&M.
Except Ole Miss.
Except for Ole Miss, yeah. But they just play really well at home. I don't know. I mean, they always have a good crowd there, and Texas, and again, Texas still has not really proven themselves against anyone.
It's so interesting because we have watched this conference for a long time, and we've seen the dominant teams in this conference. And for me to look at this rankings, and I go, Ole Miss is first. They lost to Kentucky at home.
Yep.
Georgia's second. They were played off their feet by Kentucky and got smoked by Ole Miss. Tennessee is third. They lost to Arkansas and couldn't move the ball at all. Texas hasn't beaten anybody to this point, and they got punched in the mouth against Georgia in the first half in a big, big way. Bama lost to Vanderbilt. South Carolina got annihilated by Ole Miss at home. Like, everybody at the top has had a week or two where they've just looked bad, and that is not the case. Those Saban teams didn't look bad. The 2019 LSU team didn't look bad. Now, you could say they didn't stop anybody on the ground against Ole Miss. They scored 60 in that game and won it by 20 points. So, like, those are historically great teams, and it's not a breaking news to say that nobody in the SEC this year is historically great, but, like, Georgia didn't get pushed to the brink that many times and certainly didn't lose over those 2 years. Yeah, they went to Missouri, and it didn't look great, but they pulled it out of the fire. South Carolina, played them tight at a point, but, like, it just feels like a wide-open league in the way that it hasn't in decades.
Yeah, it does feel wide open. I mean, I will say, I was talking to Taylor before the show, and he asked me who I thought the best team in the SEC was. I think it's Tennessee. I understand their questions at quarterback, but they have one of the best running backs in the country. They have a really good running attack just overall, and they have a really good defense. They're not going to blow anyone out, so they're not super impressive. Like, the scores aren't going to be impressive. Like, they haven't blown anyone out, but they just win in tight games. And I think that this Saturday they're going to maybe show some people. Georgia is just, man, they're so interesting. But Carson Beck, if he just keeps throwing interceptions, they can't win. So
LSU and Georgia have an epidemic at this point. You can't avoid it.
Yeah.
And if you play a good team, you will get smoked.
Correct.
And LSU has played good teams the last 2 weeks and gotten smoked, and Georgia played a good team last week and got smoked. So you just can't turn the ball over, and they're doing it far, far too often. So that's your most recent look at the SEC Power Rankings. Step aside, come back, close out a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
LeBears, Baton Rouge, make LeBears your game day headquarters this season. Tomorrow's game day for LSU basketball and for Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. That's why I'll be at ESPN Bet inside LeBears Casino. It's an incredible place to watch games. You can sit in one of their comfortable chairs. Servers will come and hand you a cold beer, get you something to eat right in front of the huge screen. They've also got these big tables. If you got a group of 5 or 8 people, you can sit all together at a table, watch the games. There are blackjack tables right there. There's a bar area. All the TVs all over the place for all the games. You can check all that out at LeBear's Baton Rouge inside ESPN Bet. I'll be there tomorrow for Commanders versus Eagles for probably about 2.5 hours. So come see me tomorrow for kickoff of that game. I always invite you to download the SEC contest on Cover 5. Promo code is LABRSEC24. You can win weekly prizes against me and dozens of other listeners as well. Check that out if you're not a member. Get the Penn Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge, your live sports headquarters. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966 for help.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you in a new 2024 Ram 1500 truck for only $32,898. $32,898 for a new Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a $1 million.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show. Hopefully Hunt remembered to bring his laptop charger. Nah, there's no chance.
Congratulations to Rhett Meyer from Central. Rhett is the Week 11 winner in our 2024 College Football Pick'em Contest and wins a Hooters wing party for 10 people. Don't forget to make your picks for round 12 by tomorrow, Thursday at noon. Weekly winners will receive a Hooters wing party for 10 people, and the first place season-long champion will receive a 75-inch 4K flat-screen TV and soundbar, plus free Hooters wings for an entire year. It's the 2024 College Football Pick'em presented by Hooters.
Big show tomorrow. Luke Johnson will be on talking Saints as they get ready for the Cleveland Browns. Going to have guests from the Kansas State beat to talk about Kansas State and LSU on the hardwood tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Going to try to go down to Gainesville and fish a guest up for that one for the Florida Gators. And then Chris Blair will join us from Manhattan. Briefly, we'll talk about LSU and Kansas State on the hardwood, but mostly LSU and Florida from the swamp. So lots and lots to do on tomorrow's show. Very much looking forward to that. Today, we've really only got one thing left to do, and that's play some Take It or Leave It.
All righty, first one here. Josh Smith was named a Silver Slugger yesterday. He will make an all-star team. Take it or leave it.
He almost made it this year. And I was surprised when I'm going to leave it.
Okay.
He almost made it this year, and he got snubbed a little bit. I was surprised when I looked up his statistics when he won the Silver Slugger. I think he won it more so because of his defensive versatility. For the Rangers this year, he played third base and shortstop a lot, but he also played some second. He played left and right field as well, and he actually won the Silver Slugger at utility. So I don't know what the criteria is for that spot, but I mean, he only hit he hit in the 260s with an on base like 334, 30 doubles and 13 home runs, drove in like 65. So it was a good season. He's a good player for the Rangers. You've got that kind of positional versatility. You've got some pop in your bat. Like, he's certainly a good player. But when I think Silver Slugger, I think of a guy that's hitting 28, 29 home runs. That's hitting 285, 290. I mean, the best offensive player at your position usually garners a little bit more than that. But he won that award because of his versatility, which is a great thing for him to have. Of course, he played at LSU, played third base, and then he moved over to shortstop towards the end. So, great season for him. I just don't know if I'm ready to call him an all-star just yet, but I'm hopeful. I could tell he was going to be a big leaguer pretty early on. He was a freshman on that 17 team that had Kramer and Dykeman and Papierski and the Jordan twins and Lang and Poche and all those, and he was a freshman on that team. He was really good, hit a couple home runs in Omaha for that team. I think he's got a good MLB career ahead of him, but an all-star team's tough to make.
All right, next one here. The Lakers are the favorites to land Zion Williamson. If the Pelicans decide to trade him, there are currently odds on this. The Lakers are plus 600, followed by the Rockets at 750 and the Clippers at 850. Zion and Anthony Davis, former Pels, playing together at the Lakers. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. Because if Zion plays for the Lakers, it means that the Pelicans have traded him, and that's what needs to happen.
We need, and if we can get a haul like we got from Anthony Davis, get like three first, a couple of seconds for that, then I'm okay with that, because we have just every single season we've seen the same thing happen, and at the end of the season we're like, well, let's see what happens next year. Maybe they can say, nope, it's happened. We've seen it for 4 years. We don't need to see it anymore. And we'll play out the string this year, I think, but I don't know if he continues to be hurt so much every year. They can't keep waiting. If they're going to trade him, they need to do it now when he still has a lot of value.
I don't think that they're going to get it. They would get a ton for him if they did.
They
Certainly
may not.
anywhere close to what you got for Anthony Davis.
Yeah, they may not.
But you got to get something, because, and I'm not here to tell the entire Pels organization you have failed.
Yeah.
Like, David Griffin didn't do a terrible job. Willie Green has not done a terrible job. Zion's not done a terrible job. It just didn't work. And sometimes it just doesn't work. And this has not worked. And they're going to dig themselves such a big hole this year because of the injuries that it's not going to work again this year. And because of that, you're just running out of time. And I just don't think you can feel any optimism about building around a group of players that are never on the floor and have never proven they can do it. You had one good push, and you got to the playoffs, and B.I. got hurt. It's last year they were so steady, and then B.I. got hurt, and you got to the play-in, and it didn't work. But it's
Zion got hurt in that play-in against after the Lakers. He dropped 30 or 4, however, he had 40 points, and then he got hurt, and then you didn't have him in the playoffs.
So I think they've got to move on.
Yeah, I agree. All right, last one here. After getting benched just a couple of weeks ago, Anthony Richardson has now been named the starter again for the Colts and will be for the rest of the season, according to head coach Shane Steichen. Getting benched for a couple of weeks. Take it or leave it.
I mean, I'll leave this whole thing the Colts are doing with this shuffle. It's clear Flacco's better. And they're just trying to – they made a bad draft pick. They drafted a quarterback who was not good in college, and he's not good in the NFL, and now they're trying to make him good. It's just not going to work. And I think the development is bad. I think the situation is bad. They can't decide if they want to help the future of the organization or try to win games. and they're handling it very, very poorly. I saw Nick Delatorre, who covers Florida, and he had the Michael Scott vasectomy thing, or snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap, and that's kind of what it feels like you're doing with Anthony Richardson. I got disappointing news for Jim Irsay and that entire organization. This is not going to work because he's never been a very good quarterback. And
Pretty much.
He's a great athlete, and he can run super fast, and he can throw it really far, and he can probably fill up the highlight reel. He'll make some great highlight plays, but he's going to make some terrible ones, and he's not going to make the routine ones that you need. So it's a forced draft pick, and this is the thing when people talk about Nussmeier and whether or not he's going to go to the draft or whether he's going to stay. And I'm just telling you, in a league that has taken Anthony Richardson and Paxton Lynch and has taken guys like Jake Locker and all these guys in the first round, like, I think they could probably take Garrett Nussmeier in the first round of this draft. It's just, you don't have to win the Heisman to go 9th in the draft or 18th in the draft. Just one team has to go, maybe this is it, and jump up and take it.
Yeah.
And that's what the Colts did with Anthony Richardson, and they'll pay for that. So that's it for us here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Open things up, talking about LSU preparing for 2 quarterbacks in the swamp, and why I don't think that the running quarterback is going to be a huge story for the LSU opponent in this game. J.D. Piquel of On3 Sports was with us at 1:15. It was a What If Wednesday. Talked about Bitcoin and What If Wednesday. Saints breaking some tendencies defensively. You can find that on YouTube at Hunt on Saints. Matthew Bruni talking some hoops. He'll be with us every Wednesday moving forward at 2 o'clock. He was today. Key matchups, LSU and Bama, LSU and Florida in the swamp. You can find that on YouTube at Hunt on LSU and my SEC Power Rankings. If you missed any of the show, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Matt's going to drive you home next on After Further Review. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place, for another edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa have been running Boudreaux's Electrical for 40 years down there in Napoleonville. Give yourself the peace of mind of knowing the power is not going to go out at your home. A lot of you work from home. A lot of you have young kids. Power outages become a real problem when you're working from home or if you got young kiddos. Just get rid of that. Give yourself the peace of mind of knowing that your power is going to come back on when it goes off with a certified generator dealer in Boudreaux's Electrical. They are a Generac dealer. They're a premier Generac dealer, and that means they're in the top 3% nationwide in terms of Generac generator sales. Every single Generac generator you get from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical comes with a 7 to 10 year warranty. That's more peace of mind for you from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical. You can contact them via phone. 985-397-1562 is the number they've had for 40 years, or 225-300-9389 at their new Gonzales location. I give you the easy way every day, though. It's BoudreauxElectrical.com. BoudreauxElectrical.com.